The button has been pushed. Hello and welcome. What's up, guys? Coming back to you from RockyGrass in Lyons, Colorado, and I have another special guest joining me down by the river. If you guys don't know this gentleman to my right, his name is Seth Mulder. You guys know from listening to my show that I am a sucker for the mandolin. And one of my favorite things about these festivals is finding out names that I didn't know about before. And surprisingly, Seth, I had never heard about you until I saw your name, and I started digging, and I was like, hoo-wee, these are some good old Southern boys that absolutely rip. So what's going on, my guy?
Hey, man. Well, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad that you went down the rabbit trail. Dude, that's awesome. You know, there's lots of music out there, and there's lots of players out there, and I'm just glad you stumbled across us.
So you're obviously from the South. Where do you guys call home?
Gatlinburg, Tennessee.
Gatlinburg, nice.
Yeah, man.
All right. And so obviously with the South, it's much more instilled in the culture and the tradition to have some of this folk and bluegrass, right? So
yeah, absolutely.
Was it really born into your family? How were you introduced to it? Was it just the environment? Are you from Gatlinburg?
No, I'm actually from North Dakota.
Okay, there is not a bluegrass scene in North Dakota at all.
No, that's why I asked about the Packers hat.
Okay, and now it makes sense because North Dakota, I swear to God, are you a Purple fan? Are you a Vikings fan?
I'm not a Vikings fan.
Thank the Lord.
Well, you know the state's torn. They're either Vikings fans or they're Packers.
No, 1,000%. Because here's what messes people up. They see the Packers hat and they're like, whoa, what part of Wisconsin are you from? And I'm like, the big island of Hawaii. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, yep, 1,000%. But for me,
you gotta like someone, I guess.
Well, but that's the thing.
Yeah.
So North Dakota, you don't have your own professional team, right? Like geographically, okay, Minnesota's the closest.
Yeah.
Right? And a hop and a skip away. For me, I got to choose. I love Brett Favre. He was making fart jokes with Frank Winters as a little boy. That was hilarious to me.
Yeah.
I love the color green. I moved to Minnesota as a teenager. That's when I
did turn you?
Oh God, it made it worse because I hated those purple folk. And
what about when Favre went to the Vikings?
So here's what I told folks: is I wanted Brett Favre. I literally took a shot of Jägermeister on Brett Favre's birthday every year. Okay, so Brett Lorenzo Favre was my idol growing up, and what I told people was because I have a jersey from the college that he played at, Southern Miss. When he got drafted by Atlanta, got traded. I have a jersey for every team he has.
Yeah.
I even have a Vikings jersey. It's white because I would not buy anything purple. And what I told all my Minnesota friends was, hey, I hope Brett Favre has the greatest season that he could.
Yeah.
And then you get a taste of who Brett Favre is.
Yeah.
And that NFC Championship against the New Orleans Saints, and they're like, how come he didn't just run for the first down? But guess what? He's not a gunslinger because he's running for first downs. He threw that interception, and they felt that pain. They thought they were going to the Super Bowl. And for me, it made my heart sing because I saw Brett Favre throw 5 interceptions in a playoff game, right?
Oh, yeah.
And so it's definitely a conversation starter for a lot of folks.
For sure, yeah.
Because I wear this hat everywhere. So are you a Packers?
Absolutely, yeah.
Go, Pack, go.
Yeah. Have you been to a Packers game?
Oh, man, I've been to so many. I'm a 2-time owner. I got 2 pieces of worthless paper.
Yes. Nice.
What about you? What part of North Dakota?
So I grew up right between Fargo and Grand Forks, a little town called Dillsboro.
Okay, so you were close to the border.
Real close to Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, great picture.
Yeah. I'm like half Minnesotan and half Canadian.
For sure, and you don't have any accent.
None at all.
Which is wild.
It is.
So then what's even crazier is like, I don't know when you were born, but when I came up, I moved to Minnesota in high school, and I actually went to high school with Banjo Dave from Trampled by Turtles.
Cool.
So when they just started coming up, I saw, and I've told the story a bunch on the podcast, I saw Yonder Mountain String Band play in like 2001 at Harmony Park in Minnesota.
Nice.
And he played some John Hartford covers as an encore, and for me, that was the rabbit.
Nice.
I started to fall in love with bluegrass. Hawaii, there's a lot of slack keys, so there's a lot of strings and instrumentation.
Yeah, for sure.
But bluegrass is completely different. So what was that seed that was planted for you that started this rabbit hole?
You know, for me, it was really my family. You know, no one in my family played bluegrass or played music per se. But a lot of my family listened to music. Like my grandma always was listening to country music, so she had the radio on. She listened to like 90s countries growing up, like Alan Jackson,
the good country.
the good country, dude. I loved Alan Jackson growing up. But and then my grandpa listened to like classic country and stuff like that. And so I got started on old school country. Like I knew way more about old school country ever before I knew anything about bluegrass.
And that makes sense from the oil fields up north and the wind farms that you have in North Dakota. But so then what was it that started to transition you from country? Was there a certain band that was kind of adjacent that you're like, ooh, I like that twang? Because we know there's a different sound, right?
For sure. For me, I want to say I was taking violin lessons at a point. Didn't love it. I started taking violin when I was 6. It was one of those things like, your parents want you to take an instrument or something, so you do it. And so I did that, and I kind of hated it. And then I was like, was listening to country. I was like, it'd be kind of cool to learn to play fiddle, like country fiddle. And so I do that, and then my violin teacher happened to have a flattened Scruggs record, like of all things. She didn't listen to bluegrass. Someone gave it to her, and it was live at Carnegie Hall. And so she gave it to me. And then that kind of led me down, like, discovering, like, talking to my grandpa and stuff about Bill Monroe. And I kind of, he was familiar with, like, some of those artists, some of the key artists that would, cross over the country from that time. And that's kind of how I got into that. And then, like, my first, like, key artist, though, was Del McCoury. That was the man that did it.
Of course.
Yep, I saw Del.
Yeah, baby.
Dude, that was probably one of the first bluegrass CDs I ever had. Was the Company We Keep record.
And then that was the rabbit hole. You're like, all right.
Yeah, dude.
Now I gotta chase this. Do you remember your first show that you were able to go
Absolutely,
to?
yeah.
What was it?
So the first ever bluegrass, like
bluegrass show.
I'll say professional bluegrass show, because being from Minnesota,
You got picks.
yeah, there's some people from around there. So you ever heard of Monroe Crossing?
Of course.
So that was probably like the first bluegrass band I ever saw.
Okay.
Monroe Crossing, because they would come to North Dakota and stuff like that.
Yep.
But then like the first pro band was probably Ralph Stanley, which is such a cool
That's amazing.
Yeah, like he came to Fargo, and I get chills thinking about it because it's like that's a really cool. Even being from North Dakota, not many people can be like, "Oh man, I got to see Ralph."
I saw Ralph Stanley.
Yeah, dude, Ralph came to Fargo, and I remember seeing. I was a kid, and I was attempting to play banjo very poorly at that point in life. And I remember we got to the show early, and I remember seeing Ralph too, coming through the lobby, wheeling a cooler full of beer down to the front of the stage. And I just thought it was so funny as a kid. I was like, look at that.
Setting the precedent.
Yeah, man. And then it's like, that makes sense. As an adult now, I was like, that makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, and so like that. And then like the second band I probably saw, being a massive Del fan, the Prairie Home Companion did a thing where they do the tours, the road shows. Yeah. And
dude, those were so good.
So good.
They were so good.
They were coming to Grand Forks, and it just so happened their guest for that day was the Del McCoury band. Had no idea.
So you just keep lucking out.
Dude,
you get Ralph Stanley, Del's coming. Cause just so you folks know, nobody rolls through the Midwest like this.
No,
right?
never.
And
never happens.
And we don't even include North Dakota in the Midwest because the Dakotas and Montana, that's like isolation land, right? Usually people are driving through it as they're going to hit their West Coast tours.
The coolest thing about that, though, is so Del, I found out the day of. I didn't know that he was going to be there. They didn't announce it. They didn't advertise it. They just said, Prairie Home Companion, here's a killer. Didn't say anything about the band. We haven't heard. I think my mom heard something about it on the radio. It was like Del McCoury, and I was like, oh wow, that would be really cool. Tickets were obviously sold out, and she
How
made
old
some.
were you?
Probably 13.
Okay, so you were still early in the game.
Early in the game, man. Early. I was.
But you had already made a couple different instrument changes.
Yeah, I mean, I started out playing violin, and at that time I was probably still taking violin lessons. But when I was probably 12 or so, I had discovered a mandolin in a violin school or in a music school.
Okay.
And realized that it was tuned the same, and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool. But through discovering bluegrass, I kind of messed around with all the instruments. I think everyone kind of goes through that phase when they discover bluegrass. They end up messing around with each instrument at some point just to kind of figure out, because you're curious about it.
Well, they got to get a little taste, right?
Yeah.
They got to see, and then they're like, ooh, I really like this,
Yeah.
right? But it's wild because you're trying to find it. And going back to your grandpa, right? The the times were different. We didn't have this information overload of,
No.
hey, here's a suggested artist. Oh, you like Ralph Stanley.
Yeah.
Now go listen to this, this, and this, right? So a lot of times for us, it was our family. It was like you said, their record albums,
Yeah.
what they had. So then you slowly start expanding what's going on. You're introduced to the mandolin. Was it Ronnie McCoury that really?
Absolutely.
That was it.
My two biggest mandolin heroes are probably Ronnie McCoury and Chris Steele. And I play absolutely nothing like Chris did, but like I love massive influence. Like I love his playing. He's such a talented player.
Bro, I don't know how that man isn't skinnier with all of his mannerisms on stage. He is wild, but he is filthy on that man.
So good. Going back to the Dell thing, I've got to tell you this because it was a key point in my musical journey when we found out Garrison Dell was going to be there. My mom was somehow able to get tickets. We ended up getting tickets pretty front row. It was kind of all like a, the stars aligning sort of thing.
Yep.
So we ended up going there. On the show, they only play like 3 songs.
No, it's
There's
barely
anything.
It's more like storytelling.
It's storytelling, and then like they have a guest act.
and
Yeah.
stuff like that.
So he came up, he played. It was awesome. But because it wasn't his show, there was no meet and greet. There was nothing. I was like, so I got to see him play for, 20 minutes, and that was it. And I remember, being awestruck. I was like, this is awesome. That was so cool. Man, like who wouldn't want to meet their hero? And I remember there was a stagehand. We hung out afterwards, waiting to see if there was going to be a meet and greet. There wasn't, because they weren't selling records or nothing. And there was a stagehand, and I remember asking, I was like, hey, is Dell going to come out at all? He's like, no, I don't think so. I don't think they're doing anything like that, because they had like a VIP thing downstairs where they were doing.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'll go ask him, dude, if you want to wait here.
No way.
So
really?
so he went and asked. He went downstairs, and he's like, it probably won't happen, but I'll ask. So he went downstairs, and all the way down, get Del McCoury, didn't come all the way. He stopped what he was doing. He came upstairs, and took time talking.
And so this is what I love, is you hear these stories, and our community is so inclusive, right? Like, you have the elders that bring these younger bands in, but even making that introduction to a young fan that really hasn't played a lot, and I know just from hearing the way that you tell the story, that was the aha moment.
Oh,
right?
absolutely, yeah.
And you're like, I am going to chase this.
Yeah.
This is what I want to do. And it all is because the man took a couple minutes out of his time and he came upstairs to talk to some young fan.
Absolutely. And like it changed, like I didn't know that I would go on to like play music or ever play in front of people or anything like that. But it changed how I think about meeting people and taking time to interact with people, because that man's won Grammys. That man has influenced so many people.
He's on the Mount Rushmore.
Yeah, and he took time to talk to a kid that didn't know anything about music, but that loved his music. And that was a massive impact on me. And it was really cool. Like, we got to open up for him a couple years ago, like 2 years ago.
That's what
I got to tell him that. Yeah.
And so you talked to him about that story?
Yeah, I got to tell him that story. It's cool. And we've got to be kind of friends with Ronnie and them and the guys from the band. So it's been a really cool full circle moment.
That's awesome. So then you see Ronnie, you meet Del, right? You see how he's playing this mandolin. The seed is planted. How did that journey start for you playing the mandolin? Were you taking lessons? How did you get to where you are today, ripping on stage?
There was no mandolin instructors or anything like that.
In North Dakota?
North Dakota.
Who would have thought?
I grew up in the country, so YouTube was not nearly as prominent. Even at my age, we had dial-up, so that wasn't really a thing.
For sure.
Yeah, yeah.
Bong.
So like homespun tapes. Homespun. I had Ronnie McCoury's
way.
Yeah.
So did you do it all by ear?
I did a lot of it by ear. Yeah.
You are mad.
Yeah, I did a lot of by ear, and then, when I went to college and stuff like that, there's a lot of stuff that I sat and I figured out and learned that. And I learned a lot of stuff later on in life as I got older. One of the biggest things that really impacted me is, when I moved to Gatlinburg, I'd lucked out getting a gig as a band leader for a house band in Tennessee down there at a moonshine distillery.
You just got week after week after week.
And so I had no choice but to get better. I mean, I was playing and playing and playing, and so doing that, I did that. I moved down there in 2014, and I do it to this day down there when we're not on the road. But early on, before I was ever playing on the road, I mean, we were doing that 6 days a week, playing 5 hours a day.
Oh, wow. So then you guys just got real tight. But I can't let you just slip in the White Lightning thing, right? So how often did you play Katy daily?
All the time, man. It was,
right?
Yeah, it was cool because that gave me a really great opportunity to kind of hone in on like traditional bluegrass again. Because, you know, like now, like we're, you know, I would say we're like pretty traditional in a sense. Depends on who you're comparing us to. Honestly.
For sure. But that's what's so beautiful is I tell people all the time, like, okay, yes, there's bluegrass, but there's so many different slices within this genre. And I tell people all the time, I can give you the same ingredients that I take. What you make with it and what I make with it could be completely different. So picking up those pieces, so you already said Healy and Ronnie McCoury. As you started picking it up, how did you start evolving your own sound and figuring out what you wanted? And how did that come together with the band that you put together that was on stage today at RockyGrass?
Well, for me, you know, growing up in North Dakota, not growing up in the South, and not growing up, I didn't have any preconceived ideas of what bluegrass was supposed to sound like. So I didn't get caught up on like I mentioned before, like I identified. I don't like to put labels on like traditional. We're just a bluegrass band, or we're just a band at that point, because I feel like labels can be limited in that sense.
Well, we have to be honest about the scene. There are a lot of bluegrass traditionalists, right?
For sure.
And there's, like I always talk about the Mother Church at Ryman and Bluegrass Mondays, right?
For sure, yeah.
And if you come and you get a little too spacey or a little too jammy, or you're not playing those gospel old traditional tunes, there's a I don't want to be ageist, but the older demographic isn't so accepting of some of those newer styles, right?
Yeah, for sure. But I think, you know, there's also like a newer demographic, the newer generation that kind of looks at like traditional bluegrass
like
as
us.
being like, that looks at traditional bluegrass as being like, you know, that's old fashioned. And that's why I don't like to put a label on it, because, you know, we can come somewhere like RockyGrass and play for a crowd of people that like, they're just here listening to music. You know, they'll listen to Punch Brothers one set, and then they'll listen to us, and they'll love both of it.
Yep.
And that's what I like to do. I don't want to limit our audience. I never want to do that. And that's really what I try to do. But I feel like what's really impacted that is, and why I say that there's a lot of traditional bluegrass influence in our music, but there's also an edge to it, is because of how I grew up, you know, in North Dakota, not being limited to what was bluegrass and wasn't. I listened to everything. Like, my two favorite bands growing up were the Del McCoury Band and the Punch Brothers. I mean, those are two opposite spectrum bands, but also like,
and it's wild, people don't realize that the Punch Brothers weren't being accepted to festivals for a while because of the different sound that they had. And now you look at how much of a staple Chris Neely is in the scene, but it's that evolution, right?
Yeah,
and change and growth is hard. But so for you, that's kind of beautiful, because you didn't have those like constructs of traditional, like, this is what it has to be. Yeah. But you also were respectful of the tradition, saying, I still want to do that. Because let's not lie, you boys went out there, you're all in your suits.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
As traditional as it comes, and you look great. But like you said, you have your own flair, you have your own style. So how was it? Were you looking for that when you were meeting these band members and bringing people onto your team? And what was that evolution like for the folks that you had on stage?
Yeah, I'd definitely say, like, I've always had a sound in my head of what I wanted to play, like, you know, in the original music that we did on stage. And you know, it's getting the guys together and getting the folks together to play, you know. And you know, I'm thankful for the guys I get to play music with. They're all phenomenal. They're all really well-versed musicians, and they're not limited to, like, they all can cut traditional bluegrass the best of any of them. They can also cut, you know, jazz, or they can cut progressive bluegrass, you know. I mean, Anthony, our guitar player, he's a Winfield banjo champ. He's phenomenal.
That's wild.
You know, and, you know, Carter's an awesome guitar player. Our banjo player, Carter, can play guitar. He's, you know, he can play bass.
That kid is insane.
He's just 19, man.
Dude, you don't need to tell me. I saw that baby face. You guys came in right off the bat and just ripped that banjo. And I was like, whoo-wee. Like, okay, let's go. Let's see this.
And then you've got, like, Mason, who, you know, he toured with Audie Blaylock, which is a strong traditional background, but is really heavily influenced by a lot of modern music and that's, you know, not even like rock and different things like that, pop music and stuff like that, not just bluegrass stuff. And then Tyler, who listens to everything, but really influenced by bluegrass. You know, he toured for years with Michael Cleveland, and so we have a phenomenal pedigree that helps us create some really awesome music. It helps kind of bring everything to life. Yeah, and I'm just thankful you play music to that.
And so what have you guys been doing? Have you cut an album? What has been going on with you? And how long, I mean, he's only 19, so how long has this iteration of the band been around?
So this iteration of the band's been around since, everyone's been in since February. So
it's still relatively
it's still pretty
new.
fresh. Yeah, the band's been around. I've had the band.
You would never know that by seeing you guys on stage. You would have no clue.
You know,
when you told me it was 19, I was like, then they haven't been playing that. No way.
No, you know, I've had the band for about 8 years, and you know, and like bands evolve and grow, and sounds change and stuff like that.
Influences happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And people's lives change and stuff like that. And so yeah, and that's what led to the guys we got playing. Tyler's been with us for a little over 2 years, like coming up like 3 years or so. And then we've got Anthony, who joined back in December, this past December. And then Carter joined in February, and Mason joined in like January, February.
So you said you had a vision of the sound that you wanted.
Yeah.
So then how do you start recruiting those pieces or finding who you want? Now, obviously in Tennessee, there's a lot more to choose from than there is in North Dakota,
sure.
Right? So are you going out? Were you going to local picks? How did you find each other?
You know, at this point, you know, it's kind of interesting because the band's been around to the point to where it's evolved, and so it's made a little bit of a name for itself. So like Anthony had been aware of it. He'd been a fan of the band, so he like knew a lot of the music when it came up. So you know, when the opportunity came up, and I've been friends with Anthony for years. We'd actually, funny enough, we'd never played music together. We'd always hung out, but we'd never actually played together for years. We'd never jammed or anything. But we'd always hang out on the scene together, you know. I had a great time, and then when the opportunity came up, I was like, you know, that'd be kind of cool. I was like, I didn't even know really if he played guitar. Yeah. And then he's like, yeah, I play guitar.
And then you heard him, and you're like,
I heard him, I was like, oh, dude, that's cool. And then I bugged him forever about it. He'd said no so many times. He turned me down so many times. He's like, no.
Was he just not playing, or just didn't know?
No, he was playing. He was playing in another band, and he was, you know, he was in a position where he wasn't sure what he wanted to do. He was playing banjo, and you know, he was happy doing that. But then, you know, he was kind of torn because he loved our music, and you know, he liked playing with all of us, and you know, and then, you know, we took him out on the road one week, and he filled in. And that's kind of what did him in. He filled in, and there's such awesome chemistry.
That's the gateway drug.
It
right?
was. It really was.
You get that one show in, you feel that energy. You guys are all starting to vibe out, and you're like, now he's gone. Okay, I do want.
Then we sat up. We took the bus down to Florida, and he filled in, and we sat up and talked on the bus the entire way back from Florida for like 10 hours. We didn't go to bed. We just didn't go to bed. We just talked the whole time, and I was just like, yeah, the chemistry is awesome. I was like, how could you not want to do this?
My co-host brings this up all the time because it's so funny with how many musicians we talk to. He says it's like love at first sight.
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
And then you just like, you're caught by that energy, and you're like, oh, and then that's what starts to grow it, right?
Yeah.
And what's cool is that tight-knit, those relationships that you build. The music is obviously important.
Yeah,
as a band, you're spending so much time together. So you really, truly have to feel it and have a connection. Right?
There's got to be chemistry there. If there's not a chemistry there, it's going to show on stage because, you know, there's bands that put on a show, and then there's bands that, like, their show is just their actual relationship and chemistry they have with each other on stage. That's ours, you know. We just have fun. We enjoy playing music with each other.
I could see it. You guys.
And we cut up and have a good time. That's our thing, and that's such a key thing.
So for you as a band, what are you guys' plans? Are you starting to write together? Obviously, it's been half a year, right? But a lot can happen in half a year. So where are you guys at in that process?
So we just went into the studio with these guys. We went to the studio like 2 weeks ago, and we recorded 2 songs. It'll hopefully one of those will be out hopefully in September-ish, like right around IBMA time. And that's put those out, get some new music out there, and we're working on expanding. We've been busy. We've been touring all over the place. I mean, we're so busy right now. We're wanting to come out, play more places. Get out there and see the folks. And play places like RockyGrass.
So what was it that brought you from North Dakota to Gatlinburg?
Music.
It was.
Yep.
You're like, that's what I got to do.
I never heard of Gatlinburg until, and I went there for music. Yeah, there's another opportunity where they hired musicians in the summertime to come play in the streets, and so I went and tried out and did that a couple summers before moving down there. But I hadn't heard of it till then, and I did that, and then kind of fell in love with the area and the community and stuff like that.
And so, had you ever been to a RockyGrass before you guys?
No, first time.
Nice. So, what did you feel?
Absolutely loved it. I mean, excitement. RockyGrass is a legendary festival. It's a massive deal to get asked to play here. So when the opportunity came up and we got the call that we got a booking offer from RockyGrass, we were ecstatic. We're like, oh man, that's cool. This is one of the biggest festivals we play. And
you guys were welcome. That crowd. And I always try to tell people, like, hey, I know that the East Coast and the South is where this was born, right? Yeah. But Colorado has truly become a mecca of bluegrass music, and that's because of people like Steve Szymanski and Planet Bluegrass, right? And they're harboring this community. It's not just the music; it's also about the community. And that's what I love about this so much. You can see we got people walking by.
Oh yeah, man!
The river. It's from.
It's about to be me here in a little bit.
Well, 88 degrees is gonna be me too, bud. But at least it's a dry heat here in Colorado. They like to see, which is nonsense because it's still hot. But it's fun because you start to see more than just the names on the stage, right? And you start to. What's really fun about this festival, and I don't know if you've gotten the time to be able to do that, is the picking that happens between these players at the campsites, or even as bands being like, hey, you want to come and jump on one here with us? Or, oh, I really liked your set. Next time, let's connect, let's link up.
Absolutely.
And it just starts to harbor itself and grow. And our community is so intertwined that a place like this can really help project people, right? Sure. And start getting your name out. Because like I said, I absolutely love the genre. And I tell this all the time. I don't know all the bands that are coming up. And it's hard because those bigger names are always, those are the ones that
right? For sure, yeah.
And we love it, but like to start getting on these bills and then getting this exposure and seeing these people. I just watched you guys cut a recording of a song down by the river.
Yeah.
So how is the process of like getting content out there, getting your name out there, finding bookings? You said you're touring a bunch. It is so much. It's like 12 full-time jobs.
Oh, it's never ending.
Within, and it's like, people are like, oh, well, you're a great musician. Well, guess what? That's not enough.
Yeah, it's, in this day and age, it's not just about, being the best musician in the world. It's, that's not enough. You have to put your music out there. You have to be relevant on social media. You have to get your content out there. You have to put the right content out there. You have to have make it interesting. And so there's a lot of thought that goes into that. And I'm still trying to figure it out. We're also trying to figure it out. Be like, oh, is this something cool to do? Be like, okay, we've got an opportunity to do that. There's this kind of a cool background. So it's a learning experience.
It doesn't look like Tennessee, right? So you got to take
this looks different. Let's do it. It's like setting up opportunities to talk with people like yourself and different opportunities. Never.
It's exposure, right? Just getting in front of as many people as possible. And I consistently say this for all the people that listen is support local music, right? You just said that you had this opportunity to go play 6 days a week, 5 hours a day.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't understand how much work really goes into it.
Absolutely.
You need to be able to set up to go and support these local bands. The other thing is they can support you with social media. Right?
Absolutely, yeah.
They can find these clips. They can see you out.
Absolutely.
And they can help share that with you. But a lot of people are like, oh, I didn't know that every band wants you to do that. Okay?
Yeah, share our stuff, dude. Share our stuff. Like our pages, you know? I mean, buy our merch.
That's the biggest.
Follow us on Spotify. I mean, you know, there's people that are like, oh, you know, there's big bad Spotify. But at the end of the day, you know, I would rather someone follow us on Spotify than not do anything, or not support it.
And Spotify is a big hot topic now with the AI and all the nonsense. But what you have to understand is that's the nature of the beast in this industry right now. There are streaming platforms. You have to get your music out. So if I only put it out on SoundCloud, right? Like, nothing against SoundCloud, but then I'm going to extremely limit how much I'm getting out, right? And so you try to find this balance of, like, what is working. And what's crazy is it's constantly evolving.
Yeah.
Right? You finally get comfortable. You're, like, feeling that you're getting a groove. And then, something happens.
Yes, absolutely.
And so you have to figure out, like, hey, how do I navigate through this? So what I always ask people is, like, what are you leaning on? What are you doing away from music that helps keep your mental health okay, right? Because this is a debilitating game. There is so much rejection, and there is so many hard times. Like, people don't realize, like, even people like Billy Strings, right? One of the biggest names in bluegrass right now.
Yeah.
He played to dozens of people in small bars, right? And that wasn't even 12 years ago.
Yeah, that's true, yeah.
So it's wild, but then you see, like, when you put a product out and the pieces start coming together, it can propel. Now, it's nice because Billy has then given us exposure to then see, hey, I like this sound. I didn't even know what bluegrass was. How did I figure this out? So how do you guys try to get in front of more people, and what are you doing to keep yourself sane from the debilitation that is, like, this constant failure, right? And it's not necessarily failure, but it's growing things. Like, to get to this next level, I know that I have to do this.
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't figured out a good balance because, you know, I'm bad about just, like, I like to work all the time. And, like, I'll always be doing something to try to be, like, working towards that goal. And, like, I'm bad about, like, setting aside, giving it a break. And, you know, that's. I think there's a lot of musicians when you're self-employed and when you're in control of your own journey, you struggle with the idea of taking a break or taking too much time off with it because you don't want to miss out on an opportunity. And I think that's an imbalance that I feel like you would see a lot of musicians struggle with, because I feel like you feel like I'll be like, oh, you know, I'm going to take a break. I'm not going to respond. I'm not going to check those emails today, or I'm not going to post on social media today, or
that's just eating you a lot.
Yeah. Well, and then you're like, well, you know, that's the day that something could happen. You're like, oh, well, you know, if I would have done that, you get these thoughts, and you can't let those thoughts get in your head. But that's just the stuff that daily struggles that, like, I struggle with.
But it's funny because so many successful musicians are what I call perfectionists, like yourself, right? Yeah. And it's like, but I think it's that drive and that chase that really pushes you to keep going, to get through that lull. But then oftentimes some folks can do it for so long that they end up getting burnt out.
Yeah, for sure.
Right? Mm-hmm. And so how do you battle those bad days where you're like, you know, I don't want to do this? What are you able to do to push yourself to say, no, this is what I need to do to get through?
You know, just keep moving. Think about the bigger picture, you know, the goal, the end goal. You know, what I ultimately want to get out of it. And you know, I also like to think about, like, my goals have changed, like what I want to see, like what, you know, the type of venues or the type of crowds, and getting the experiences and stuff like this is like what? This is like a reminder, like, this is why I want to do it. These are experiences that make it worthwhile.
Because now you get a taste, right?
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, we'll get.
Exactly. Yeah.
And then it just keeps slowly building and building and building. So you guys have 2 new songs cut, and then you obviously have been touring a bunch. Yeah. What else do you guys have planned for the rest of the year?
Well, we just had a new record come out back in May, coming on strong. It's out on Rebel Records, and it was produced by Ken Irwin and Dudley Connell. And if you're not familiar with either of those, Ken was the founder of Rounder Records. One of the founders, yeah. And then Dudley.
And then he went through his own label?
Well, no. Well, he did. He started another label, Down the Road Records. But kind of in between that, you know, I kind of struck up a friendship with Ken, and I'd asked him about producing a record with Dudley. Dudley's another one of my heroes. Dudley's one of the founders of Johnson Mountain Boys.
Oh, wow.
And one of my favorite singers, probably one of my biggest singing influences. And when I approached Dudley about it, he was a little hesitant because he hadn't done it before. And I talked to Ken about it, and he's like, well, maybe you do it if there was a co-producer. And so, you know, I brought that up with Ken, and Ken was like, you know, I could do this. And so it's actually the first time Ken has ever produced an album that wasn't on his label.
That's wow.
Yeah.
How was that process then?
Oh, dude, it was awesome.
Direction.
It was so cool. Ken and Dudley were phenomenal to work with. It was such a cool experience. You know, getting to work with your heroes, getting to spend time and just hone in and learn all that stuff. Yeah, it was amazing. Amazing experience.
That's awesome.
And so we've been spending this kind of summer kind of promoting that record and pushing that forward. And you know, we got a busy tour season coming up still. We're playing all over the country. We were just over in Europe earlier this year.
You guys are getting out.
Oh yeah, we've been out a while, and you know, we've got a good little momentum behind us, and we're excited. We're hitting it hard.
Well, and that's why you just got to keep riding the lightning,
Yeah.
right? You got to keep going. You ride the wave as it comes. Sometimes that wave will die down, and you got to catch
Yep.
another one and keep going. But you just got to keep paddling. You got to get through it.
Absolutely.
And I feel like you guys are starting to break through, right?
Yeah.
And now all that hard work is really starting to pay off. But there's also so much more that's going to come, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
And so for the folks that don't know, where can they find more information about you? Where can they follow you? Where can they buy your merch? How do we support Seth Mulder?
You can find us at Midnight Run Bluegrass on Facebook, Instagram. Website is midnightrunbluegrass.com. We've got merch there. Follow us on, Spotify, iTunes, support our music. Find us on YouTube, TikTok, all that stuff. We appreciate it. Come out to our shows. We've got a list of tour dates on our website. We're going to be playing all over the country coming up. A bunch of stuff out in California, a bunch of stuff.
Do you have any more Colorado dates?
Yeah, we're going to be in Ridgeway, Colorado on Thursday, actually.
Oh, dang.
But other than that, nothing right now, but we'd hope to come back out here.
For sure. Well, I can't thank you enough, Seth. I really appreciate you taking the time. For all you guys, get out there, support the homies. We can't do it without you. Great music doesn't do anything if nobody's listening to it.
True.
All right?
Cody,
Thank you so much, Seth.
Thank you.
Absolute pleasure, brother.
Appreciate it.